When people hear the name Onassis, they often imagine glittering yachts, glamorous parties, and the kind of wealth that could buy entire islands. But behind the fortune, behind the dazzling headlines and the whispers of high society, lies a story told not only through the people, but through the homes they built, bought, and loved. These homes weren't just places to sleep or escape. They were symbols, reflections of taste, ambition, heartbreak, and legacy. From the shining waters of the Ionian Sea to the heart of Manhattan, the Onassis family mansions tell a story of old money luxury, personal triumphs, and private sorrow. So, let's step inside the world of Aristotle Onassis and Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and explore how their mansions became monuments to love, loss, and legacy. The world of Aristotle. Onassis. To understand the mansions, we have to understand the man who built the empire behind them. Aristotle Socrates Onassis. Born in 1906 in Smyrna, modern-day Izmir, Turkey, Aristotle came from humble beginnings. His father, Socrates Onassis, was a prosperous shipping trader, but when the Greco-Turkish War broke out, everything changed. The Onassis family lost nearly all they owned. As refugees, they fled to Greece, leaving behind their home, their wealth, and their old life. But Aristotle, even as a young man, wasn't someone who gave up. He left for Argentina in his early 20s, working odd jobs before he found his way into the world of shipping and trade. By the 1940s, he had turned himself into one of the richest and most powerful men in the world. He didn't just want money, he wanted status. And for Aristotle, Onassis' real status came from how you lived. The properties you owned, the parties you threw, and the people you entertained. Jackie's second chapter. When Jacqueline Kennedy, the widowed First Lady of the United States, married Aristotle Onassis in 1968, the world gasped. To some, she was running from tragedy. To others, she was stepping into a new life of unmatched wealth and privacy. But to Jackie, it was both. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy had left her heartbroken and haunted by constant media attention. With Aristotle, she saw a way to protect her children, Caroline and John Jr., and reclaim a sense of peace. And Aristotle, ever the showman, found in Jackie the one thing even his billions couldn't buy: royalty by association. Their life together unfolded across an extraordinary backdrop of luxury, from London's Mayfair to the Greek Isles, from private yachts to quiet countryside retreats. Each place told a piece of their story. 47 Grosvenor Square, London's elegant escape. Our first stop is at 47 Grosvenor Square, a stately address in London's exclusive Mayfair district, a neighborhood where wealth whispers, never shouts. In the 1960s, this building was already famous. It had once been home to Sir John Anderson, a prominent British official and close ally of Winston Churchill. But when Aristotle Onassis purchased the first-floor apartment, he transformed it into something extraordinary. The apartment stretched over 5,000 square feet, with 5 bedrooms, 3 reception rooms, and a sprawling library. It wasn't just large, it was grand. High ceilings framed by intricate plasterwork, marble fireplaces, and tall sash windows flooded the rooms with soft London light. Aristotle used this space not only as a residence, but as a social hub. It became the London headquarters of the Onassis lifestyle, a meeting place for aristocrats, politicians, artists, and celebrities. But the apartment also served a more personal purpose. It was a home base for Aristotle's sister, Artemis, and later a favorite stop for Jackie Kennedy Onassis and her daughter Caroline, who studied in London during that time. A stage for the elite. When Jackie visited, 47 Grosvenor Square would come alive. The drawing rooms shimmered with crystal, the air perfumed by fresh flowers flown in from Paris, and the quiet hum of conversation filled the halls. Guests included Lee Radziwill, Jackie's elegant sister, and members of the British upper class who were curious to glimpse the woman who had once been America's First Lady. The home's crown jewel was its 63-foot balcony, the only one in the entire Georgian block with such a commanding view over the square. On summer evenings, it served as the perfect spot for cocktails and conversation as the lights of London twinkled below. Inside, the design was tasteful but never loud. a blend of Greek elegance and European refinement. Aristotle preferred bold textures, deep colors, and statement pieces. Jackie, on the other hand, had a gentler eye, soft pastels, symmetry, and timeless furniture that spoke of quiet grace rather than extravagance. Together, their styles merged into something unique, sophisticated, powerful, but deeply personal. The apartment's later life. After Aristotle Onassis' death in 1975, the apartment changed hands. It was later purchased by Edmond Safra, a famous Lebanese banker known for his wealth and philanthropy. Safra and his wife Lily continued the apartment's legacy of grandeur, hosting lavish balls reminiscent of the Onassis era. At one 1988 event, the guest list included politicians, royals, and film stars, a gathering that felt like a page torn from the past. Even after tragedy struck when Edmond Safra died in a mysterious fire in 1999, Lily Safra preserved the apartment's splendor. Today, 47 Grosvenor Square remains a symbol of London's high society, a reminder of the days when the world's most powerful people walked through its doors. The symbolism of Grosvenor Square. But beyond the luxury, this London mansion reflected something deeper about Aristotle Onassis and Jackie. It represented a kind of balance between Europe and America, old money, and a new fame, tradition, and modernity. Jackie, with her impeccable taste, felt at home in London's restrained elegance. Aristotle, ever the cosmopolitan businessman, loved being at the center of global power. And Mayfair was the perfect place for that. Here, away from the flashbulbs of New York and the chaos of Athens, they could play their roles as the world's most glamorous couple in peace, at least for a little while. A glimpse into their private world. Those who visited described the apartment not as a palace, but as a place of comfort wrapped in sophistication. The library shelves were lined with rare books, Aristotle's passion, and the bar, polished to perfection, was always ready for guests. Jackie would sit by the window, tea in hand, overlooking the square while her daughter studied nearby. It was a rare glimpse of quiet in a life that had been anything but. In many ways, 47 Grosvenor Square captured the essence of the Onassis lifestyle. Controlled elegance, hidden drama, and a deep awareness that beauty could be both a shield and a stage. From London to New York, but even as London offered a sophisticated retreat, Jackie's heart remained in New York City, a place that represented independence, memory, and a return to her roots. After the heartbreak of losing President Kennedy, she had chosen a home not for its grandeur, but for its familiarity and safety. And that home became one of Manhattan's most iconic addresses. That's where we'll go next. Jackie's New York sanctuary, 1040 Fifth Avenue. After the tragedy of President John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Jacqueline Kennedy found herself living in a world that no longer felt safe. The crowds, the cameras, and the endless questions never stopped. Every street corner, every newspaper headline reminded her of what she had lost. So, in 1964, searching for stability and comfort, Jackie Kennedy made one of the most important purchases of her life. A 15-room apartment on the 15th floor of 1040 Fifth Avenue, overlooking Central Park in Manhattan. It wasn't just another luxury residence. For Jackie, it was a refuge, a place where she could raise her children and rebuild her life away from the noise of Washington and the shadows of the White House. A home with history. The building at 1040 Fifth Avenue wasn't new, but it was legendary. Designed by Rosario Candela in 1930, it was one of the finest examples of classic New York architecture. Stately, elegant, and understated. Candela's work defined the golden age of Manhattan apartment living, and his buildings were known for their gracious proportions, high ceilings, and intelligent layouts. Unlike the glass towers that would later dominate the skyline, 1040 Fifth Avenue had character. Its limestone facade stood proud yet simple, with carved details and a canopied entrance that exuded old-world charm. Inside, wide hallways, polished marble floors, and brass accents gave the place a quiet dignity that whispered, not shouted, wealth. There were only 27 apartments in the entire building, each designed to feel like a mansion floating high above the city. Privacy was paramount, and for Jackie, that was priceless. Inside Jackie's apartment, Jackie's penthouse was a full-floor residence, offering sweeping views of Central Park and the reservoir that would later be renamed in her honor, the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir. It was a view that defined serenity. Each morning, the sunlight danced across the treetops and filled the rooms with golden light. In the evenings, the city glowed below like a sea of stars. The apartment itself was refined, warm, and deeply personal. Nancy Tuckerman, one of Jackie's closest friends, once said that the space felt like her, welcoming, intelligent, and quietly beautiful. Jackie never chased extravagance. She preferred timeless beauty over opulence. Her living room, filled with soft colors and comfortable furniture, radiated calm. There were family photos, books stacked neatly on tables, and delicate artworks that spoke of her love for culture and history. Much of the furniture had followed her from her White House days, pieces that carried the memories of another life. The famous portrait of President Kennedy hung in a place of honor, surrounded by fresh flowers and sunlight. Candela's design genius, Rosario. Candela had a gift for designing apartments that felt both grand and intimate. Each unit in 1040 Fifth Avenue had a large entrance gallery, often with black and white marble flooring, that opened into a series of elegant rooms, the living room, library, and dining room, each with its own fireplace. In Jackie's home, those fireplaces became emotional anchors. She would often spend quiet evenings reading by the fire, while her children, Caroline and John Jr., played or studied nearby. The crackle of wood, the warmth of the flames, and the familiar scent of old books made the apartment feel alive. Behind the main living areas, the floor plan opened into a kitchen and staff quarters, including a maid's room and pantry. The apartment also included 4 or 5 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom and walk-in closets large enough to hold Jackie's famed wardrobe. Though she was known for her simplicity more than her size of closet, everything about the apartment reflected her desire for balance. Luxury with restraint, comfort with sophistication. A place for healing. When Jackie first moved into 1040 Fifth Avenue, she was still in deep mourning. The apartment offered her a place to grieve privately, away from the flashing cameras and headlines. It became her fortress and her cocoon. Neighbors often saw her walking quietly through Central Park, sometimes with Caroline and John Jr., other times alone, wrapped in her thoughts. In those moments, she was no longer the First Lady, no longer a symbol. She was simply a mother and a woman trying to heal. Inside the apartment, she surrounded herself with books, music, and art. Her library overflowed with volumes on history, literature, and design. She found solace in words and beauty, the same things that had comforted her throughout her life. Friends said that she filled the apartment with warmth, not grandeur. The decor rarely changed. Even when fabrics wore thin, she replaced them with identical patterns, preferring continuity over novelty. To Jackie, beauty wasn't about showing off. It was about creating peace. Lave after Aristotle. In 1968, Jackie Kennedy shocked the world again when she married Aristotle Onassis, one of the richest men alive. The public's reaction was mixed. Some admired her courage to move forward, while others criticized her for marrying into immense wealth. But for Jackie, this was about security, both emotional and financial. After years of living under the microscope, she wanted a life where she and her children could be safe, and Aristotle Onassis offered that promise. During their marriage, Jackie spent part of her time in Greece aboard Onassis's private yacht, the Christina O, and on his private island, Scorpios. But no matter where she traveled, her heart remained anchored in New York. 1040. Fifth Avenue was her true home, her constant through all the changes. When Aristotle Onassis died in 1975, Jackie once again faced profound loss. Yet, she didn't retreat this time. Instead, she began a new chapter, Jackie the Editor. In the years following Onassis's death, Jackie reinvented herself in a way no one expected. She became a book editor. In 1975, she joined Viking Press and later moved to Doubleday as a senior editor. It wasn't a vanity job. Jackie was deeply passionate about literature and believed in the power of storytelling. Colleagues described her as dedicated and meticulous, editing manuscripts late into the night from her apartment on Fifth Avenue. She worked on books about history, art, and culture, subjects that reflected her own interests. Her apartment became not just a home, but a workspace, where she could nurture creativity and find meaning beyond fame. For the first time in decades, she was living life on her own terms, quietly, purposefully, and surrounded by the people and things she loved. A final goodbye. When Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis passed away in 1994, the apartment at 1040 Fifth Avenue became a place of pilgrimage for admirers and mourners. Crowds gathered outside the building, leaving flowers and notes beneath its canopied entrance. It was a touching reminder of how deeply she had touched the world. In 1995, the apartment was sold to billionaire David Koch for $9.5 million, a sum that, at the time, reflected both its prime location and its history. Over the years, the property changed hands several times, its value soaring as it continued to be one of Manhattan's most desirable addresses. But for those who remember Jackie, the building remains more than real estate. It's a symbol of grace under pressure, of quiet resilience, and of the way one woman transformed unimaginable tragedy into a legacy of strength and beauty. A legacy in limestone. Even today, if you walk down Fifth Avenue and look up at the limestone facade of 1040, you can almost imagine her there, standing by the window, gazing over Central Park, the city's lights reflected in her eyes. The apartment stands as a lasting reminder of a life that bridged two worlds, the public and the private, the powerful and the personal. It tells a story not just of wealth or fame, but of endurance, taste, and dignity. In a world obsessed with spectacle, Jackie Kennedy Onassis found peace in simplicity, and that, perhaps, was her greatest luxury of all: Scorpios Island, the billionaire's private paradise. If there was ever a place that captured the myth and mystery of Aristotle Onassis, it was Scorpios Island. Set in the glittering Ionian Sea, this lush private paradise became one of the most famous symbols of wealth and romance the world has ever seen. But when Aristotle Onassis first set eyes on it in 1963, Scorpios wasn't the green jewel it would one day become. It was a barren piece of land, dusty and dry, surrounded by turquoise waters, unremarkable to anyone but him. Where others saw wilderness, Onassis saw potential. He envisioned not just a retreat, but a kingdom, a world entirely his own, the birth of a dream. That year, Aristotle Onassis bought the island for what now seems like an unbelievable bargain, about 3.5 million drachmas, or roughly $114,000 in today's money. For most people, even a single yacht or London apartment would have been enough. But for Onassis, Scorpios would be the crown jewel of his empire. He poured his heart, and millions of dollars, into transforming it. Over the next few years, ships arrived carrying hundreds of trees, tons of soil, and sand from the island of Salamina to create golden beaches. Onassis didn't just want to own nature, he wanted to reshape it. Soon Scorpios bloomed into a tropical paradise. He built 3 villas, a helipad, a private marina, and luxurious guest houses. Every path, every garden, every hidden corner was designed for privacy and perfection. The Pink House and Jackie's escape. At the heart of this island, paradise stood a special home, the Pink House. Painted in soft rose tones that glowed under the Greek sun, it was built for Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis after their marriage in 1968. For Jackie, this island was a world away from the flashing cameras and chaos of New York. Here, she could finally breathe. She would walk along the beaches in wide-brimmed hats, barefoot, collecting shells with John Jr. and Caroline. The sea breeze, the silence, and the sense of isolation made Scorpios a sanctuary. But even paradise wasn't safe from the world's curiosity. In 1971, Jackie's peace was shattered when paparazzi managed to photograph her sunbathing nude on one of Scorpios' beaches, a deeply humiliating invasion of privacy that made global headlines. The incident revealed the dark side of her fame. Even surrounded by the sea, she couldn't truly escape the public eye. The wedding that stunned the world. 5 years earlier, in October 1968, Scorpios had already made history when Jackie Kennedy married Aristotle Onassis in a small ceremony on the island. It was one of the most talked about weddings of the 20th century. Only about 40 guests were invited, including Jackie's sister, Lee Radziwill, Onassis's children, Alexander and Christina, and a handful of close friends and dignitaries. The ceremony took place at the island's tiny Greek Orthodox chapel, decorated with white lilies and candles. The sound of waves replaced music, and the soft wind from the sea carried their vows across the island. For the press, it was a shock. The widow of an American president, marrying a Greek shipping magnate. For some, it felt like a fairy tale. For others, a betrayal of Camelot's dream. But for Jackie, it was simply a chance at peace. And for Aristotle, it was a conquest of the heart, as grand as any of his business triumphs. Scorpios, the playground of the elite. In the years that followed, Scorpios became the most exclusive destination in the world. Its guest lists read like a roll call of mid-century royalty. Winston Churchill, Mariah Callas, Frank Sinatra, Grace Kelly, John F. Kennedy Jr., and countless European aristocrats all walked its shores. The days on Scorpios were filled with sunlight, laughter, and fine wine. Nights brought candlelit dinners, live music, and the sound of the sea brushing the sand. Onassis would host lavish feasts under the stars, his yacht Christina O anchored nearby, its lights shimmering across the water. It was more than luxury. It was legend. Scorpios wasn't just a place to visit. It was a place to be seen. And in those years, no one embodied glamour quite like Aristotle and Jackie Onassis. A paradise with shadows. But beneath the glitter, there were cracks. Aristotle Onassis's health began to decline, and tragedy struck when his beloved son, Alexander, died in a plane crash in 1973. The loss shattered him. The man who had conquered oceans and empires suddenly seemed lost. He spent his final years on Scorpios, weakened and heartbroken, staring out at the waters that had once symbolized freedom. When he died in 1975, he was buried on the island he loved so deeply, next to his son. Later, his daughter Christina Onassis would also be laid to rest there, her life cut short by illness and sorrow. What began as a dream of paradise had become a private cemetery, a silent reminder that not even the richest man alive could buy happiness. A new era, from Onassis to Athena. After Aristotle's death, Scorpios passed to his daughter Christina and then to his granddaughter, Athena Onassis Roussel, the last surviving heir of the Onassis fortune. But for Athena, the island carried too much history, too much sadness. She rarely visited, and in 2013, she made the decision to sell Scorpios to Russian billionaire Dmitry Rybolovlev for an estimated $153 million. With that sale, a chapter of history closed. For the first time in 50 years, Scorpios no longer belonged to the Onassis name. The modern transformation, Dmitry Rybolovlev, a man whose wealth rivaled that of Onassis himself, saw in Scorpios what Aristotle once had: potential. He announced ambitious plans to transform the island into a luxury eco-resort for the modern elite, investing over $200 million into its rebirth. Designed by the renowned Norwegian firm Snohetta, the same architects behind the Oslo Opera House, the project promised to blend opulence with sustainability. Plans included a 60-bedroom resort, helipad, super yacht marina, spa, amphitheater, and even horse stables, all hidden seamlessly within the island's lush landscape. Most of the new structures would be built underground, covered in greenery to preserve the island's natural beauty. High-speed internet, desalination systems, and solar-powered utilities would make it self-sufficient, a 21st century vision of privacy and luxury. When completed, Scorpios would once again host the world's richest and most powerful, though this time, as guests, not owners, the spirit of Scorpios. But no matter how much Scorpios changes, the spirit of Aristotle and Jackie Onassis will always linger in the breeze. The olive trees he planted still sway over the beaches he built. The chapel where they married still stands, small and quiet, overlooking the same endless sea. Visitors often say the island feels alive, as if the ghosts of the past still walk among the gardens at dusk. Maybe that's true, because Scorpios wasn't just another property, it was a symbol of ambition, of love, and of the eternal chase for peace in a world that never stops watching. Legacy among the waves. When we think of old money mansions, we picture stone castles and chandeliers, but Scorpios was something else entirely. A living mansion surrounded by water and sky, designed not for permanence but for perfection. For Aristotle Onassis, it was the final masterpiece of a man who built his empire from nothing. For Jackie Kennedy Onassis, it was a fragile dream, a place where she tried, for a moment, to be free. Today, Scorpio stands at the crossroads of history and modernity, still dazzling, still private, still whispering stories of the people who once called it home. The Christina O, the floating mansion of the Onassis Empire. If Scorpio's island was Aristotle Onassis's kingdom, then the Christina O was his crown. It wasn't just a yacht, it was a floating palace, a symbol of triumph built from the ashes of war, and like everything Onassis touched, it carried both beauty and drama. From warship to wonder. The story begins in 1942. During World War II, the ship was known as HMCS Stormont, a Canadian anti-submarine frigate that served with courage across the Atlantic, and even helped escort Allied ships on D-Day. When the war ended, most of these vessels were sold for scrap, but Aristotle Onassis, always the opportunist, saw possibility where others saw rust. In 1948, he bought the tired gray ship for only $34,000, pocket change for a man whose fortune by then was measured in millions. To everyone's surprise, he didn't scrap it. He transformed it. The transformation. Over the next 3 years, Onassis poured an astounding $4 million into refitting the frigate, a sum that would equal nearly $50 million today. He hired architect Cesar Pau and a team of European craftsmen to remake the warship into a masterpiece of grace and power. When the ship re-emerged in 1954, it was unrecognizable. Gone were the guns and steel decks. In their place stood marble staircases, hand-woven carpets, and grand salons glowing with chandeliers. Onassis renamed her Christina after his beloved daughter, and in that single gesture, turned a weapon of war into a symbol of family, a wealth, and legacy. A palace at sea, the Christina O was no ordinary yacht. At 325 feet long, it could host more than 30 guests in 18 luxurious cabins, attended by a crew of 40. Its walls were lined with rare woods, gilded mirrors, and works of art collected from across Europe. But what truly made it legendary were the details, the kind only Onassis would dream of. There was a mosaic-tiled pool that could transform into a dance floor with the flick of a switch. A bar carved from the timbers of a sunken Spanish galleon, inlaid with ivory and decorated with the teeth of orca whales. A fireplace of lapis lazuli, glowing blue like the sea. And of course, the famous Ari's bar, upholstered, according to legend, with whale foreskin leather, a detail that shocked some and fascinated others. Every inch of the ship radiated extravagance, but it wasn't only about luxury. For Onassis, the Christina O was a statement. I have conquered the world. The guest list of legends. Soon the yacht became the epicenter of international glamour. In the 1950s and 60s, to be invited aboard was the ultimate honor, a symbol that you belonged to the most exclusive circle on Earth. The guest list reads like a who's who of history. Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe, Maria Callas, Frank Sinatra, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and Prince Rainier and Grace Kelly all stepped onto her decks. Diplomats struck deals over champagne. Actors fell in love under the moonlight. The Christina O wasn't just a yacht, it was a floating stage for power and desire. Onassis would stroll the deck in his white linen suits, cigar in hand, laughing boisterously as the Mediterranean shimmered around him. Wherever he docked, Monte Carlo, Cannes, Capri, the yacht drew crowds like a celebrity itself. Maria Callas and Jackie. Before Jackie Kennedy came into his life, Aristotle Onassis had a long, intense relationship with the opera diva Maria Callas. Their love story, passionate and stormy, unfolded largely on the Christina O. She was the queen of the arts, he was the king of commerce. Together, they created an atmosphere of fire and music, nights of opera arias echoing across the sea. But when Onassis met Jackie Kennedy in the 1960s, the dynamic changed. He was drawn to her elegance and mystery, and soon she would replace Callas as the woman most often seen on deck. The world press followed their voyages closely. Jackie in sunglasses and scarves, Aristotle beside her, two figures who seemed to embody the very idea of wealth and power. Life aboard. For guests, a stay on the Christina O was an experience unlike any other. Days were spent swimming in the Aegean, or sunning on the upper deck as chefs served fresh lobster and fine wine. Evenings were for music and conversation. Frank Sinatra might sing a song at the bar, while Churchill told war stories under the stars. The crew was trained to anticipate every need before a guest spoke a word. Jackie often invited close friends and artists on board, turning the yacht into a floating salon of ideas and laughter. Children played in the pool that mirrored the sky. Aristotle smiled, content to see his world alive with joy, decline, and neglect. After Onassis died in 1975, the yacht passed to his daughter Christina. She gifted it to the Greek government, hoping it would serve as a national symbol. Sadly, it fell into neglect. By the 1980s, the once sparkling Christina O sat in a Greek dockyard, rusting, its glory fading beneath layers of salt and time. It seemed that the era of Onassis glamour had sailed away for good. The rescue. But in 1998, another Greek shipping magnate, John Paul Papanikolaou, known to friends as Big John, refused to let history die. A former business associate of Onassis, he bought the yacht and began a massive $50 million restoration project. It was a labor of love that took 3 years and hundreds of craftsmen. Restoring the Christina O was no easy task. The ship's narrow hull, built for speed, not comfort, made every renovation a challenge. Yet, Papanikolaou was determined to keep its original spirit alive. He recreated the mosaic pool, the lapis lazuli fireplace, and the famous bar, exactly as they had been. Each suite was refitted with pastel themes, mixing nostalgia with modern comforts. When the yacht finally returned to the sea, she shone like new, a tribute to the golden age of Onassis. A new life on the waves. Today, the Christina O is more than a museum piece. It still sails, available for private charters to those wealthy enough to afford it. Weekly rates can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars, and its guest list remains exclusive. Modern royalty, media moguls, and Hollywood icons. The yacht has even appeared in popular culture, from Netflix's The Crown to the 2022 film Triangle of Sadness, reminding the world of its storied past. It continues to host celebrations and family reunions for the rich and famous, including a recent event for media giant Rupert Murdoch. Each time it glides into a harbor, people still stop and stare, because this is no ordinary ship. It is a living memory of an era when luxury had a soul, and its captain was a man who believed he could outdo the gods of Olympus. Symbol of a bygone era. The Christina O represents something larger than Aristotle Onassis himself. It embodies the post-war dream of limitless ambition, a belief that if you worked hard enough and dared big enough, you could turn a warship into a temple of pleasure. It stands for the idea that wealth could be more than power. It could be art. For Jackie, the yacht was a place of escape. For Onassis, it was a declaration that the boy who once fled war in Smyrna had risen to rule the waves. Every brass railing, every polished deck tells that story. And though the parties are over and the guests long gone, the Christina O still glides through the Mediterranean like a ghost from a grander age, carrying with it the echoes of music, laughter, and dreams that once belonged to the Onassis family. The final sanctuaries, Jackie's Horse, Farm and Redgate Farm. By the mid-1970s, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis had lived a life few could imagine, marked by beauty, tragedy, and the constant gaze of the public eye. She had been a first lady, a widow, a wife, a mother, and one of the most photographed women in the world. But beneath all that, Jackie longed for something much simpler: peace. She found it not in palaces or penthouses, but in quiet, open landscapes, in places where the air smelled of grass and sea salt, where she could ride horses, plant flowers, and finally live like any other person. These were her final sanctuaries, her escapes from the world's spotlight, and through them, we see a different side of Jackie Onassis, not the icon, but the woman. The horse farm in New Jersey. In 1974, 1 year before the death of Aristotle Onassis, Jackie purchased a small estate in Peapack, Gladstone, New Jersey, a picturesque village known for its rolling hills, meadows, and horse trails. The property, once a barn, sat on nearly 10 acres of land and was surrounded by fences, fields, and thick woods. To anyone else, it might have seemed modest compared to the grand mansion she had once known, but for Jackie, that was the point. A life among horses. Jackie had loved horses since she was a little girl. Riding gave her a sense of freedom, a kind of control she rarely had in the rest of her life. When she moved to Peapack, Gladstone, she returned to that love fully, spending mornings on horseback and afternoons walking through her fields with friends or her children. Locals would sometimes catch glimpses of her trotting quietly along the bridle paths, always polite, always understated. To them, she wasn't the famous Mrs. Onassis or the former First Lady. She was simply Jackie, another neighbor who loved horses. She often attended local equestrian events and fox hunts, becoming a quiet fixture in New Jersey's horse country. Her estate was close to the Essex Hunt Club, where every Thanksgiving morning, riders would gather for the traditional blessing of the hounds before the annual hunt. Jackie attended those gatherings often, smiling, chatting, blending in, something she rarely could do anywhere else. The barn that became a home, Jackie's Peapack. Gladstone Home was originally an old barn that she transformed into a cozy, rustic house. She kept much of its original charm: exposed wooden beams, high vaulted ceilings, and wide windows that filled the space with light. Outside, she painted the walls soft yellow with crisp white trim, giving it the look of a storybook farmhouse. Inside, the decor reflected her personality, simple but graceful. There were fresh flowers, framed photographs of her children, and shelves lined with books instead of gold or crystal. Her living room had overstuffed armchairs and patterned rugs, inviting anyone who entered to relax. Friends later recalled that the house didn't feel like the home of a billionaire's widow. It felt like the home of a woman who had finally found calm, peace, and privacy. What made Peapack Gladstone special wasn't luxury, it was privacy. For the first time in years, Jackie could step outside without being followed by cameras or reporters. She could host small gatherings, ride her horses, and read on the porch without worrying about who might be watching. She called it her refuge, a place where she could simply exist. When Aristotle passed away in 1975, she spent long hours there, grieving quietly but surrounded by the peace of the countryside. Even as she returned to New York for work and family, this farm remained a treasured retreat, a reminder that healing sometimes comes not from grandeur, but from simplicity. After Jackie's death in 1994, the property was sold in 1997 to her neighbor and friend, Marjorie McDonald Walsh, for about $147 million. Sadly, the house was later demolished to make way for new construction, but to the locals, its spirit still lingers, a reminder of the days when one of the world's most famous women found joy in something as ordinary as tending to her horses. Redgate Farm, the ultimate retreat. If Peapack Gladstone was Jackie's place of peace, then Redgate Farm on Martha's Vineyard was her dream come true. Purchased in 1979, it would become the final and most beloved chapter in her story, a home that reflected not just who she was, but what she valued most: the land of freedom. Redgate Farm sat on 340 acres of pristine coastal land on the southwestern edge of Martha's Vineyard, a windswept island off the coast of Massachusetts. The property stretched for a full mile along the Atlantic Ocean, complete with 2 freshwater ponds, rolling meadows, and untouched dunes. When Jackie first saw it, it wasn't the glamorous estate it would later become. It was a working sheep farm with a small hunting cabin and a few outbuildings. But to Jackie, It was perfect, raw, wild, and full of possibility. She had always loved nature, and here she saw the chance to create a home that felt like a part of the landscape, not a disruption of it. She hired architect Hugh Newell Jacobson, known for his refined and modern take on traditional design, to build her a new house, something elegant but humble, building a home from the heart. By 1981, the transformation was complete. The new main house at Redgate Farm was designed in the Cape Cod style, whitewashed, gabled, and timeless. It had 5 bedrooms, 2 studies, and wide windows that looked out over the ocean. Every room was filled with light and air, connecting the indoors to the outdoors. There was also a 2-story guest house, a caretaker's cottage, a barn, garages, and even a small boathouse. The property included vegetable gardens, blueberry patches, and walking trails that wound through forests and fields. Landscape designer Rachel Bunny Mellon, Jackie's dear friend and the woman who had helped redesign the White House Rose Garden, was brought in to craft the surrounding grounds. Together, they created something breathtaking. A natural haven of windswept dunes, flowering shrubs, and quiet ponds that reflected the sky like mirrors. A family retreat. At Redgate Farm, Jackie was finally free to be herself. She swam in the ocean, rode her bicycle down dirt paths, and hosted family picnics under the open sky. Her children, Caroline and John Jr., grew up exploring the beaches and meadows, often joined by their cousins and friends. For them, this was paradise, a world away from politics and fame, where laughter replaced flashbulbs, and the only schedule was the rhythm of the tide. Jackie once told a friend that Redgate Farm was the one place where I can breathe. And for over 15 years, that's exactly what she did. Even as she continued her editing career in New York, she returned to Martha's Vineyard every chance she got, especially in the summer. When her grandchildren were born, they too would come here, the next generation running through the same fields where their grandmother once rode horses at sunset. The spirit of the land. Redgate Farm wasn't about luxury, though it was, by any measure, magnificent. It was about harmony. Jackie believed that homes should reflect the soul of their owners, and this one did. Calm, intelligent, resilient, and endlessly graceful. Every detail, from the choice of materials to the preservation of native plants, spoke to her respect for the environment. Even decades later, the land remains mostly untouched, a sanctuary for birds, wildlife, and the memory of the woman who cared for it so deeply. After Jackie passed away in 1994, her daughter Caroline Kennedy inherited the property. Caroline made careful updates to keep it livable for a modern family while maintaining her mother's original vision. In 2000, she worked with architect Deborah Burke to renovate and expand the main house, blending contemporary design with New England tradition. The legacy of Redgate Farm. In 2019, after nearly 4 decades in the family, Caroline Kennedy put Redgate Farm on the market for $65 million. The listing described it not just as real estate, but as a rare and remarkable piece of American history. And it truly was. Even now, those who visit Martha's Vineyard speak of Redgate Farm with a kind of reverence. Locals still recall seeing Jackie on her bicycle, her scarf fluttering behind her, smiling as she rode along the cliffs. They remember her not as a celebrity, but as a neighbor who cherished the land, the sea, and the simple joys of life. The legacy of grace. From the halls of the White House to the shores of Scorpios, from the London salons to the quiet meadows of New Jersey, the story of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and Aristotle Onassis is one of transformation, of how love, loss, and legacy shape 2 of the most fascinating figures of the 20th century. Their homes, scattered across continents, tell this story better than any biography ever could. Each mansion, island, and retreat reflected who they were at that moment in time. The London apartment, where elegance met influence. The New York penthouse, a refuge from grief and a space for rebirth. The Scorpios Island estate, a dream of freedom and love. The Christina O, a symbol of triumph at sea. The horse farm and Redgate Farm, where Jackie finally found serenity. Together, they form a map of a remarkable life, one that spanned empires, oceans, and eras. A closing reflection: in the end, what remains isn't the marble or the chandeliers, the yachts or the guest lists. It's the feeling, the sense that behind all the headlines and the history books was a woman who sought beauty and a man who sought immortality. Aristotle Onassis built monuments to wealth, Jackie Kennedy. Onassis built sanctuaries for the soul, and though both are gone, their homes still stand, quiet, radiant, and eternal, as witnesses to the idea that true legacy is not measured in fortune, but in the grace with which we live and the peace we leave behind.